Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph is from Ramah, and he is the grandfather of Yeshua. He's the father of Mary. So, let me show you here. Let's just go faster. Mary's lineage is in Matthew 1. Someone says here, Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary. It doesn't say husband, it says the man of Mary. In Luke, there's the lineage of Joseph, Mary's husband, and he is descended from Solomon through his son, or descended from David through Nathan. But here, this descendant of Yeshua is descended from David through Solomon. So there are two different lineages. The one in Luke is for Joseph, Mary's husband, and this one here is for Mary. This is her lineage. Because see, you have 14 generations. So Babylon into Messiah are 14 generations. Well, you don't have 14 generations unless you count Mary in here. So the you got to do the math. So the lineage right here includes Mary. So Jacob begot Joseph, her father, and her father begot Mary, who was born Yeshua, who's also called Messiah, which is the anointed high priest. That's what Messiah means. So Joseph of Arimathea went to Pilate to ask for the body because that was his grandson. He's from Ramah, and Jeremiah 31. This is Jehovah. A voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, for her son, refused to be comforted for Yeshua. So yes, that was that happened. Prophecy is multi-layered. Prophecy is more than once. There's different layers of prophecy. So yes, this happened when they fled to Egypt, when Herod killed all the children. And so this also happened when Yeshua was crucified. So Mary, wept to her father, Joseph from Ramah. And so he went and got the body of Yeshua. And, Ramah is the city of the Jews. It's in Benjamin, but the Jews is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because the 12 tribes were split up after the death of Solomon between Judah and Israel. And Israel became Samaria. So in the time of Yeshua, then you have Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That's who the Jews are. And you have Israel. And so Israel didn't want to go up to Jerusalem to keep the appointed times. So they became Samaria. So the woman at the well, she's a Samaritan. She's the tribes of Israel who refused to go up to Jerusalem to keep the appointed times. And that's basically what the Christians represent today. The Samaritans, they won't go up to Jerusalem. So they refuse to believe that Yeshua is a Jew. When he tells the woman, he says, you worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation. Yeshua is of the Jews. He's the king of Judah. Yeshua is. But they won't go up to Jerusalem to keep the appointed time, so they made up their own two golden calves, Easter and Christmas, so they don't go up to keep the appointed times, and which is Passover, unleavened bread, Shavuot, and Tabernacles. And Yeshua was resurrected on the seventh day, not the first day of the week. So at the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn towards the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene. Well, that's what it says in English, but it doesn't say that in Greek. So day, there it's italicized, because it's been added. I highlighted in blue because that word has been added. It says actually first week came Mary. And so first we pull that up and it's Mia. A certain first. And then week is not week. It's Sabbaton, which is Sabbath. So it was late in the evening, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Look how many words they added in there, okay, as it began to dawn. Well, that word right there is epiphosko, and that is to grow light, okay? That is epiphao, to shine upon, to illuminate. It's from epiphono, which is to shine and become, appear to give light, which is from epi, which is upon, and then pheno, which is to bring forth into the light, to cause to shine. Phos, which is from the light, like phosphorus, compared to pheno, we already did that. And femi, to make one's thoughts, to declare, to show, to speak, to say. Okay, so epiphosko is to bring forth the light, which is exactly what was prophesied in Isaiah 60, verse 1. So it wasn't the sunrise that they saw. It was late in the Sabbath in the evening, and arise and shine, for your light is come, and the glory, that splendor, that is brilliance of Jehovah is risen upon you. That's Yeshua. Yeshua is Jehovah. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. Yeah, spiritual darkness. That's, we'll get to that in a minute. But Jehovah shall rise upon you. Not the sun, Jehovah. And his glory, splendor shall be seen upon you. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and the kings to the brightness of your rising. Not the sun's rising. So let's go to John. All right, so the first day of the week. No, it doesn't say the first day of the week. It says, once again, Mia, a certain first Sabbath. And that would in Hebrew be Echad, Sabbath, Shabbat. Okay, so that's the seventh day. A certain Sabbath, the seventh day, cometh, and that's Komahi appeared. When it was yet dark. Okay, Scotia, that is spiritual darkness. That's what Scotia means. So, I will tell you what I tell you in darkness, speak in the light. And that's another parable, but that's, whatever you spoken in darkness. Okay, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't comprehend it. Okay. Commandment is a lamp, Torah is a light. So when you reject the commandment, that's Proverbs 6:23. When you reject the commandments in the Torah, the light, and the commandments, you're in spiritual darkness. So John 12:46, I am the light. I am come a light into the world. Whosoever believes in me should not abide in darkness, spiritual darkness. So this is Epiphosko is Isaiah 61 and 33. So let's go back to Jeremiah. So Jeremiah is prophetic of the rapture, or of the resurrection in Mount Zion. That's what Zion means. And these are all parables, which there's a lot here you got to know the definition of. So, thus saith Jehovah, a voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children because they are not. So Mary Magdalene came to the tomb first. And it was Mary alone who saw Yeshua first. It says Mary and, the mother of Jesus was there, when they saw Jesus. But no, it wasn't. When a woman encompasses a man, that's when it says in the Greek that Mary Magdalene clung to Yeshua. So that leads you here to Jeremiah 31, where this is prophetic. And so, no, Mary Magdalene was alone when that happened. Okay? She's weeping for Yeshua. And so that says, Jehovah, refrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears. For your work shall be rewarded, saith Jehovah, and they shall come again from the land of the enemy. And which is Egypt, spiritual Egypt. And there is hope in your end, says Jehovah, that your children shall come again to their own border. I was talking about Ephraim. This is Peter. So remember, Peter, the events that happened on the Sabbath in the evening, the third day of unleavened, Jesus crucified on Passover, Nisan 14. He gave up his spirit about the 9th hour, which is about 3 p.m. 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours from them is Nisan 17, third day of unleavened bread, which is Mia Sabbaton, a certain Sabbath. In the evening, about the 9th hour, when he was resurrected, which is about 3 p.m. So Mary Magdalene had been there all day. At some point, Mary, the mother of Jesus, was with him, but she wasn't there with him when Jesus arose. Mary was there alone. Because later, when the women show up with the spices, Mary Magdalene went there to see the tomb. So she was there all day. They had bought the spices after the Sabbath of the first day of unleavened bread, because you have Passover, Nisan 14. And then that evening was Nisan 15, which is the Sabbath of unleavened bread, day 1. It wasn't Friday. Okay, it was unleavened bread, day 1. It was after that Sabbath when they bought the spices. But on the 7th day Sabbath, Mary Magdalene was there at the tomb, and she, after everything happened, the other women, including Mary, the mother of Jesus, came, and, they were saying, well, who will roll back the stone from us? They were thinking that because the stone had already been rolled away. They hadn't got there yet. So Mary Magdalene was there first in Matthew 28:1. Okay, then she leaves to go get Peter and John. Peter and John come, and John won't enter the tomb because it's the Sabbath, but Peter does. And then John does, okay? And then they leave. And then Mary shows up again because she's on her way back too, and Mary Magdalene alone. And then she is there, and that's when she sees Yeshua, which is a woman, encompasses a man, and which is here prophesied in Jeremiah 31. Then she leaves, and then she goes back to tell Peter and John, and Peter's leaving at this point. He and Clopas are leaving on the road to Emmaus because he's leaving, because he's bemoaning himself. Well, in the meantime, the other women show back up, and all the whole time, the guards are his dead man, okay? They're still there. As soon as Mary Magdalene leaves, then the other women show up with the spices. And then that's when they're told to leave, and it says, go tell the disciples and Peter. But they didn't tell Peter because they were afraid when they got there, because Peter is leaving. So Peter leaves with Clopas, and that's when Yeshua met him. And he saw Yeshua in the breaking of bread, because when he got to the tomb, he saw the handkerchief there, the afikomen was there, but the bread was gone. But when he broke bread with Yeshua on the way to, and they're going to Emmaus, uncleanness, then, they returned. And that's when they got back, And they said that, Peter has seen, or he's appeared to Peter, because that happened. That's why Peter returned. So I have surely heard Ephraim, Peter, bemoaning himself. It says, you have chastised me, and I was chastised as a bull, unaccustomed to the yoke turn, or unaccustomed, anyway. This is hard to read in the King James. Turn thou me, and I shall be turned, for thou art Jehovah, Jehovah Elohim. And so that's when Peter returned. Shortly after that, I turned and I repented, and after that, I was instructed. So, this is Peter. He was ashamed for what he did, okay? So, here, Mary Magdalene set up the waymarks. Okay, so you're not supposed to remove the ancient landmarks, which they did with the Sabbath. And they turned it to the first day of the week. So set back up the ancient landmark, the monument, Mount Sion. That's the seventh day when Yeshua was risen. Turn again, O Virgin of Israel. Turn again to these cities. And how long will you go about, backsliding daughter? For Jehovah has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall encompass a man. So that was Mary. Remember, she was in Scotia when she came to the tomb in spiritual darkness? Because that's backsliding. Every time Yeshua said he was going to rise on the third day, they were all talking about who was going to be the greatest. They weren't paying attention. But the chief priests and the Pharisees, now they're the ones who remembered, because they went to Pilate on the Sabbath of the first day of unleavened bread and requested for him to put a seal on the tomb, because they said, hey, we remember that he said that he was going to rise on the third day. Well, they knew that was a Sabbath, and they didn't want that to happen. So then when it did happen, they told the guards to say that, no, it happened later, at nighttime while we slept. No, it didn't. It happened earlier that day on the Sabbath. So that's what everybody teaches to this day. They do what the guards tell them, which is on the first day of the week, which is at nighttime. No, everybody's doing Sunday. Easter Sunday service. You're doing what the guards are saying. So Mary is from Ramah. That's her father, Joseph. And he was the grandfather of Yeshua, because Yeshua is the son of man. His father is Elohim, spirit. Mary is of man, is of Joseph, of the man Joseph. And Jacob, the man of Mary, because showing that Mary's not divine. She had kids. She had, everybody says she remained a virgin. No, she didn't. She was a widow. She died the widow of Joseph. Is this not the carpenter's son, and his mother's called Mary, and his brothers James, who wrote the book of James, Joseph and Simon, and Jude, who wrote the book of Jude, and his sisters, are they not here with us? Mary did not remain a virgin. Okay? She was a widow. And I know they like to say, hey, that she's the wife of God, and so therefore, and she ascended to heaven. Well, if she's divine, that makes her spirit. So that means that Jesus didn't come in the flesh. That's what John is talking about in John 2. When he says, those who don't confess that Jesus came in the flesh, by saying Mary is divine, you're saying that Jesus didn't come in the flesh. Mary is from man, from Joseph of Arimathea of Ramah. So, and you're also saying you're saying she's the wife of God. Well, and Jesus is her son, so that makes her equal to God. And, but she's also the bride of Christ. So that is what, Amos 2:5? ish in here. Two 7. A man and his father go into the same woman made to profane my holy name. This is talking about Mary here. So if she's she's a female servant. She even said, your servant. That's who she is. She's not the wife of God. She's a servant. So Yeshua was conceived in her by the Holy Spirit. He didn't come through Adam. His father is spirit. His mother is of man. So and this is what Paul's talking about in Corinthians, to the Corinthian church, because Paul spoke in parables. And because see, people change things like a certain Sabbath, they change it to on the first day of the week so they can, worship the woman, because they're the ones who made that, the false image of Mary. They're the ones who made that up. So that's what Paul's talking about to the Corinthians. And so then when you go to Revelation 18, the people that need to come out of her. Revelation 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sin. Sin is the transgression of the Torah. Sin is Torahlessness. That's 1 John 3:4. If we confess our sins, our Torahlessness, he's faithful and just to forgive us of our sins, Torahlessness, and cleanse us of all unrighteousness. Well, people refuse to do that because they say, we're not under law, we're under grace. And they don't even know what that means. So this woman here, for she said in her heart and her spirit, I sit as queen, because they say she's the queen of heaven because she's married to God. Queen of heaven and earth, that's what they call Mary. And I am no widow. Yes, she is a widow. She's the widow of, she died the widow of Joseph. She did see sorrow. She died the widow of Joseph. So, they worship her and they make up all these rules. And that's the false image of Mary. It's not the real Mary at all. And Joseph of Arimathea, of Ramah, Pilate gave him the body of Yeshua because that's his grandson. That's why Pilate gave him his body. It's his grandson. So, show some respect. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom.